In issue 26, Ratchet tries and fails to restore the blown-up Optimus Prime, in the intermediate time having apparently restored all the Autobots taken apart by Rat. Much to his shame. Although once again, seeing all the Autobots, both newly constructed and repaired, we are reminded by a bunch of Autobots that are currently on life support that somehow they can't be restored. I have neither the equipment nor the spare parts to return them to operating status. This is Doctor Strange can't heal a bullet wound levels of bullcrap at this point. For crying out loud, the issue where Optimus died premiered another new team of combiner robots that were built off-panel. And for heaven's sakes, if you can build new robot bodies, just take their minds out of the damaged bodies and put them in the new ones! While the rest of the Autobots attend a funeral for Optimus, sending his body flying into space on a small capsule shuttle, Ratchet decides to try to find replacement parts for his comrades in a junkyard, stumbling into a car theft operation led by a villain known as the Mechanic, who is arguably either more or less pathetic than Carjack from Thunderstrike, depending on how you look at it. It's another Ratchet character-focused issue, as he once again needs to gain self-confidence in himself and all, but the hilarious thing is that it seems the spare part that he needed to get Prowl back online? Police siren lights. Yeah, I'm beginning to think that the spare parts that Ratchet keeps saying he's lacking are actually just, like, aesthetic stuff. Like, Ironhide could be brought back online if he just had the right decal. Issue 27 brings us back to the Dinobots, who are scavenging on fuel trucks to survive on their own. Grimlock has heard of Optimus Prime's death and is quite pleased about it, since he thinks he can force his way into becoming the new leader. Meanwhile, the space bridge is repaired, but the Decepticons get a call from Ratbat. Now, normally Ratbat is one of Soundwave's cassettes, but Buddy Ansky wanted to screw with audience expectations. I mean, in a good way that's not Optimus dies because of a video game. And thus made what was normally an animalistic, non-speaking minor character into a high-ranking member of the Decepticons. Ratbat is the Decepticon fuel auditor for Cybertron, and he's informing Shockwave that they're going to be shutting down the space bridge for a while. It consumes too much power, and the Decepticons on Earth haven't provided enough fuel to justify keeping it on. He does agree to one last-ditch effort to attack the Autobots and seize the Ark, sending forth their most powerful Decepticon on Cybertron to aid in their effort. Trypticon. In theory, Trypticon is supposed to be massive, like an entire battle station or part of a city that other Transformers can ride inside of. But they've obviously scaled him down a bit. There's also a bit of a different presentation of his intelligence. The bigger the Transformer, the dumber they tend to be. Maybe their minds otherwise can't handle the enormity of their systems or something. But here, Trypticon is pretty talkative and strategic. The same can actually be said for Grimlock and the Dinobots here. While Grimlock in this story is not exactly winning people over with his intellect, he's not going around talking like the Hulk. Trypticon's attack on the Autobots disables them for a minute, but the Dinobots are able to attack it and defeat it. And as much as they had earlier rejected Grimlock's attempt at claiming leadership, during the battle, they feel he exhibited all the best qualities of leadership. Wisdom, compassion, courage, charisma, and military skill, especially after he drove off Trypticon. Ratbat forced him to retreat for expending his fuel budget for the mission. I don't know if I necessarily agree with all of that, and even Grimlock admits that his desire to be leader was selfish, but they won't be dissuaded and make him the new leader. In issue 28, though, I guess Grimlock fell over and hit his head or something, because now his speech pattern better matches the cartoons, and he's become an insufferable asshole, even picking out a crown to wear for himself. Where does that thing go when he transforms? This issue is mostly about the return of the Mechanic, who stole several Autobot weapons and tools in their last confrontation, and they're trying to retrieve them. He gets away again, and realizing that Grimlock will think they failed even though they brought down his criminal operations, Goldbug and Blaster decide to desert, bringing us to issue 29. The two meet with Blackrock and explain the situation, wanting to try to deal with Decepticons on their own. He informs them of a recent meteor crash that was emitting radio signals that could mean more Decepticons, so they head out to investigate. The meteor was actually a Decepticon ship dispatched by Ratbat, but it was infected with metal-eating parasites known as scraplets that attacked and damaged it. Ratbat dispatches 3 triple changers to Earth to investigate what happened, but they, along with Blaster and Goldbug, become infected. After some convenient exposition about a cure that might exist for them, Goldbug and a human who is investigating the crater head out to try to find it. In the next issue, Ratbat learns of the scraplet infection and decides to not not risk any more Decepticons on this operation. Instead, he captures a group of Autobots known as the Throttlebots and sends them to destroy any Transformers infected with them, since otherwise the Scraplets could multiply and extend beyond Earth. Given that the Scraplets can exist outside of the Transformers, your plan to send more Transformers to deal with the infected seems like a bit of poor planning, dude. Soon, the human discovers what the cure is, the chemical compound thought to be so rare that its existence is suspect. Water. Friggin' water. Dihydrogen monoxide, huh? Just such a rarity in the universe. Couldn't figure that compound out, huh?
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
After an encounter with the Throttlebots, they contact BlackRock and acquire enough water to deal with the Scraplets, but BlackRock himself gets a little mind control chip shot at him by the fleeing Triple Changers. This leads us to issue 31, The Car Wash of Doom. This is actually one I did a full review of in 2013. It's also where I stupidly said in the end credits that they should just re-release the old Soundwave toy to make a lot of money, not understanding anything about the toy market, changing trends, etc. It was dumb of me. So anyway, in 2019, they reissued the original Generation 1 Soundwave toy as a Walmart exclusive, and I bought it. It's a funny old world, isn't it? There's not much to say about it in regards to the larger narrative going on. We get to check on Sparkplug, Buster, and his girlfriend in a fun, if goofy, adventure where it turns out the Decepticon cargo was a prototype car wash that mind-controlled people so that humans would acquire gasoline for them, with BlackRock funding the distribution of it all. Honestly, the most ridiculous part of the whole thing is the ending, where, after BlackRock swears to refund the costs of building all those gas stations to the franchisees, he'll use the profits from the stolen gasoline to help the poor of the Pacific Northwest. Look, I firmly believe that the rich should be doing that kind of thing, but there's something so utterly disingenuous and ridiculous about a guy who was spying on his own employees saying, "I'll help the poor of this specific region of the United States using this stolen gas." Issue 32 sees Blaster, Goldbug, and the Throttlebots still trying to recover from 2 issues ago. Rat has become aware of the deal with BlackRock for refueling, so any BlackRock gas station is now a trap for them. Eventually, Rat gets away with everyone but Blaster, who is captured by the Protectobots to be brought back to Grimlock for trial and execution. But enough of that. Remember the whole UK Transformers thing? Well, issues 33 and 34, they decided to reprint one of the UK-only stories, Man of Iron. It's really not at all consequential to the ongoing storyline at the time, and really kind of weird when put up against the rest of the stories. For one thing, the book was recolored to match the aesthetic of American comics, but the artwork feels very different than what they'd been doing. Another, the dialogue from the Transformers is just kind of creepy, especially with Jazz trying to talk to a little kid. "There's nothing to be afraid of. Get in. We'll go for a drive." "I can't." "Why not? It's a nice day, and you're on holiday." "Well, my mom told me not to take lifts from strangers." "But I'm not a stranger, Sammy. Deep down, you know, don't you? You've been wanting an adventure all your life. Besides, I have something to tell you. Something really important." I apologize to everyone who now has to pause and take a shower. Yeesh. Oh, and enjoy this shot of Sammy's face melting from issue 34. God, he looks like one of those malformed character ice cream bars. Issue 35 continues the story properly, with the Protectobots taking Blaster back to the Ark, but on the way, they get into a fight with the Combaticons. They also befriend a bunch of kids, and when the Protectobots get defeated, Blaster, with the help of said kids, manages to defeat them. Then, just to be weird, they take control of a Combaticon whose alt mode is a spaceship to give the kids a chance to fly through space. A lot of child kidnapping in these issues. The Protectobots decide to let Blaster go because of what he did to help, but it doesn't really matter. In the intermediate time, the Autobots have completed repairs on the Ark, and Grimlock decides that if he can't bring Blaster to him, he'll go right to Blaster, flying off and capturing them. Issue 36 introduces us to Skylinks, summoned by Wheeljack to somehow help them in dealing with Grimlock's tyranny. I'd just like to remind you guys that this is kinda your own fault for making him leader, and I don't see why it'd be so hard for you all to go, "You know what, we've changed our minds, you're not our leader anymore, and we outnumber you." Skylinks is kind of interesting design-wise. Instead of having a traditional humanoid robot mode, he assumes a kind of weird dinosaur-esque thing when he's not a space shuttle with a lot of undercarriage. After the Dinobots are tricked out of the ship to go chase after Skylinks, Blaster is told by the rest of the Autobots that they want him in charge again after all the crap that's happened, though he's reluctant because of the risk to the kids, and he prepares to surrender to Grimlock. Issue 37 brings us back down to Earth to catch up with Goldbug and the Throttlebots. 3i has been interrogating them and studying them, still convinced that all the Transformers are on the same side, and they keep saying that the idea of there being two factions is unacceptable for some bizarre reason. Barnett, the 3i guy who we've seen several times throughout this whole thing, has slowly become convinced of their authenticity. However, 3i is finally tired of their lack of answers and decides to execute the six, crushing them in a massive trash compactor. Fortunately, Barnett is able to rescue all their brain units and hide them in toy cars, hoping to get them back to the Autobots. The Predacons also attack 3i to claim their corpses, confirming for Barnett's superiors as they talk that there are indeed two warring factions at play. However, they also detect the missing brain modules and go in pursuit. Barnett takes the cars to Sparkplug and Buster, since they know how to reach the cave with the Ark. They arrive, but of course the Ark is gone, and Ratbat has followed them, ready to kill. And now we have to detour for a second. Those of you familiar with the original cartoon know that it ended with a three-parter introducing the Headmasters, as well as a terrible Headmasters series and its hilariously awful Omni Productions dub.
This is Unicorn. The Earth will soon be a part of me.
And has reconstructed another Soundwave and renamed him New Soundwave.
Fortress Maximus has come himself.
I'm the ninja consultant for the Decepticons.
Darn that Soundwave.
Optimus Prime, you're gonna die here. It's been a while.
In the comics, Headmasters was its own 4-issue miniseries focusing around a group of new characters, as well as a bunch of the Season 3 cast like Hot Rod and Cup, led by Fortress Maximus. Sick of the constant, never-ending war, Fort Max leads a group of Autobots off of Cybertron and to the nearby planet Nebulos in the hopes of living out the rest of their lives in peace. Unfortunately, the natives, the Nebulans, are mostly distrustful of them, and one, Zarek, deliberately wants to wage war with them, and so he helps manipulate events to make the Autobots look like bad guys. However, Fort Max makes a sign of peace to their commander, Galen, by, having some of them rip off their own heads in front of them. Okay, self-decapitation is not a normal negotiating tactic, but I can't argue with the results. Also, one of the Nebulans is named Krunk.
That was Krunk.
After some time has passed, and despite Zarek's attempts to turn people against the Autobots, the peace endures. Unfortunately, Zarek is something of a moron, so he decides he wants to get rid of the Autobots by calling up the Decepticons and asking them to take them away. He hates the giant robots so much that he summons more giant robots to the planet.
Is this the human condition of madness, leader? It is.
The Decepticons, led by a powerful one named Scorponok, arrive and demand the Autobots be released to their custody. Galen refuses since he wants to honor the deal, and Fort Max confirms that if they try to surrender them, the Decepticons will attack anyway because they'll see it as a sign of weakness. They need the firepower of the Autobots, both from their own camp and the headless ones, but they also can't restore the heads to their bodies because Galen promised the people he wouldn't do so and thinks that would ruin his credibility with them. You're a politician. They probably expect you to break your campaign promises at some point. They have a primitive remote control system for the Autobot bodies, but they can only barely control them. As such, they instead come up with a better solution? Fusing the Nebulans with the Autobots as kind of cybernetic hybrids. Galen in particular merging with Fortress Maximus. And thus they become Headmasters, combining with the Autobot bodies in the form of new heads while maintaining contact with the originals. After several successful missions against the Decepticons, Scorponok finally acknowledges that they need the help of Zarek and his forces, who become Headmasters themselves. Eventually, Zarek realizes that Scorponok is taking over more and more of his mind, and he encourages Galen and the other Autobots to leave, since the Decepticons will follow them wherever they go. They earlier received a distress call from the Autobots on Earth, so they decide to head there, leading us into issue 38 of the main series. The Headmasters miniseries is pretty good. While, like so many new characters in this thing, it exists to promote new toys, it does a pretty good job of giving them personalities, conflicts, and emotional depth, even though it's done in that kind of exaggerated, melodramatic way that 80s comics tended to be written like. While upgrades are made to Fortress Maximus on the way to Earth, Spike Witwicky enters the picture, returning from college to find his home wrecked from the events of the previous issue. Fortunately, Sparkplug is okay and catches his elder son up to speed on what's been happening. Spike heads to the cave of the Ark, but is only able to find the electric cars that house the Throttlebots. The headmasters arrive there as well, discovering that the distress call came from Goldbug, discovering their brain modules in the toy cars. They check Goldbug's last memories, which include Ratbat taking Buster away. Spike reveals himself to them to try to get them to help, but Galen has taken a real shine to being a dickwad and says that he came to help Autobots, not humans. Scorponok's forces soon arrive as well, and it's only thanks to Spike sending another distress call that gets Fort Max to come back and realize, yeah, I should probably help Earth people too. My bad. Galen sacrifices himself to save Spike, handing over the control helmet of Fort Max to him. And I guess that helmet's all you need to really be a headmaster, since the others say that he's going to be their new leader. I see that Nebulan government is decided by who has the fanciest hat. I would be Emperor. Meanwhile, in issue 39, 3i has tracked the Decepticons back to their artificial island in the Caribbean, serving as their base. They now are on board with the some robots good, some robots bad theory, and call in Barnett. Turns out Buster only had Goldbug with him. The other Throttlebots are safe with Barnett, and they want to figure out a way to rescue Buster from the Decepticons before they blow the island to hell. Barnett calls Sparkplug to let him know his son is alive, and it turns out Spike is visiting him, while wearing a massive trench coat to try to hide that he's a headmaster now. And Sparkplug honestly didn't notice. Yeah, maybe Sparkplug should have listened to his son about that reading and education thing. I think he might need it. The helmet, of course, is not just what was necessary. Spike has been completely augmented, hence the suit. They launch their rescue attempt for Buster, but it turns out to be a trap, knocking away most of the Autobots going after him until it's revealed that the artificial island is actually a spaceship that takes off. They manage to get away, but in the ensuing struggles, Shockwave falls into the atmosphere and is seemingly burnt up. Our final issue today, number 40, introduces the Pretenders, a kind of weird and pointless, in my opinion, line for the Transformers. The idea behind them was that the robots wore shells that either made them look human or like weird monsters. The toys themselves have no articulation for the outer shells, with a tiny robot inside that, hey, does transform. But of course, they're still bigger than humans, so it's not even a very convincing disguise in-universe. But hey, they're the focus of the issue because they're the toys we're promoting. Oh, and we finally follow up on Optimus Prime's brain, but really, who cares about that, am I right? Ethan Zachary has moved on from the whole alternative energy thing and now owns a game development company. At least until he got acquired by EA and the company dismantled so the executives could report an increase in revenue for this quarter. Optimus's brain is basically now a video game character for one of Ethan's games, and Optimus is none the wiser about his true nature, apparently not realizing how weird it is that, as a video game character, he can just interact with Ethan like he does. Ethan does try to explain who he really is, but in this form, Optimus can't see beyond the parameters of being a video game character. He also finally tries to get in touch with the Autobots to get Prime to them, but with the Ark gone and Sparkplug being pissed at all the Transformers stuff, he has no luck. Fortunately, Spike tapped his dad's phone as a safety precaution. A lot of the good guys are really into invasions of privacy, I've noticed, and overhears. They've rebuilt Goldbug's body for him, and he figures he should investigate what Ethan is talking about. Ethan fills him in on everything that's happened, and they just need to reawaken Prime's memory of who he really is. They decide to investigate the Decepticons, who are breaking into a genetics laboratory to create the Pretenders. Scorponok's reasoning is that the Autobots won't suspect that they're Decepticons until it's too late. Except for the fact that you made them all giant monster people who are still aggressive and want to kill humans. Otherwise, great plan, dude. Detecting the infiltration, the Pretenders are sent to attack the game studio, but Fortress Maximus decides to make Autobot Pretenders of their own to defend it. They fight, Optimus coordinating them as if it was a game, and in the process seems to regain a lot of his old characteristics, but in the end still thinks it all wasn't real. And that's where we're going to leave off for now. Next week, will Optimus be restored? Who will win leadership between Blaster and Grimlock? How many more new characters will we have to try to remember and figure out if we should care about them, or they'll just be forgotten by the next issue? Find out next time on the Transformers, number 41 to 80.
Darn those Decepticons that do anything to satisfy their own needs.
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!